What's up, good people of YouTube? It's me, Chavez. Welcome to the channel and welcome to the NFL DFS Prize Picks Week 7 first look. Long ass title, I know, but we'll be covering all that in today's video. So first, we're going to be going over some injury news going on in the NFL right now. Got some big names to talk about in terms of injury news. We'll take a look at the Week 7 schedule, inclusive of some point spreads. I got 3 games, total of 6 games that I actually want to share my thoughts on. We'll definitely take a look at the Prizepicks dashboard as it sits right now on Tuesday afternoon and see what's available to us. And then obviously, we'll go ahead and recap our plays from Week 6. Gave out a total of 9 plays in Week 6. We'll see how we did. So if all that sounds good, I encourage you to stick around, drop a like, sub up, click the notification icon to get notified of all upcoming content and videos from me and this channel. And without further delay, let's dive into all of our picks from Week 6. All right, let's start with our Thursday night football picks. Gave out 2 props for Isaiah Pacheco. Could have taken his fantasy score or could have taken his touchdown prop. I like both of these props. Both of them were in fantastic spots to hit. We did get the over on his fantasy score, but we didn't get the over on the touchdown. He was able to get over 14.5 fantasy points by rushing the ball very well, over 60 yards, caught 6 passes, a little over 30 yards with those receptions. So overall, did enough to get over fantasy, but just wasn't able to punch it in. So we'll take the win on the fantasy points for sure. Rashee Rice over 30.5 receiving yards, clears this, no sweat at all. And then Russell Wilson, this one pissed me off because he finished with 22 pass attempts, but 7 drives, I believe 7 drives for the Broncos consecutive drives ended in either a turnover or punt. So you take those 7 drives, you can easily factor in 2 pass attempts in each drive, and that would have given Russell Wilson 36 pass attempts. We just needed him to get 33. Hell, 32 would have given us the push, but really disappointing to see him not able to get that. We're talking about pass attempts, not completions, just him throwing the damn ball. So wasn't able to get there. When you turn the ball over, you shorten drives, you take your offense off the field, you really limit your upside in terms of production. So Russell Wilson did a great job of that and did a great job of spoiling a perfect night for us on Thursday night. But 2-1, pretty good start to the week. Continuing the momentum going into Sunday, we had 3 picks. Josh Allen. The good news about the Josh Allen pick is we go into that game sitting 2-0 with our pick. So was really optimistic about Allen closing the deal for our picks, but unfortunately he and the Buffalo Bills decided to take the first half off and barely squeak out a win against the Giants team they should have beaten the shit out of, and they just didn't. So Josh Allen didn't even come close to that 295.5 pass rush yards. Kendrick Bourne clears the receiving yard prop of 39.5, and he also goes over 10.7 fantasy points. So that was a projection that I gave out. It's kind of what I based off some of the stats I was seeing. I felt like that's kind of where he would land, and he goes over that. Kelsey and Swift, probably the easiest prop of the week for us because Kelsey hits this or almost hits this by himself. 126 receiving yards for Travis Kelsey on Thursday Night Football, leaving only 5 rushing yards for DeAndre Swift to pick up for the over. Took him long enough. I think at one point he only had 5 rushing yards going into the fourth quarter and was able to get us a bit more than that as the game wore on. So 2-1 with our Sunday picks. So that puts us at 4-2 heading into Monday night. And then our Monday night picks, Austin Eckler goes over 32.5 receiving yards. CeeDee Lamb goes over 5.5 receptions. Josh Palmer does go over 3.5 receptions. We talked about reasons why the under was the move here. He finishes with exactly 4 receptions. So thought we had enough going on. I thought the Dallas defense would be able to help us keep him under 4 receptions. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. So we end Monday night 2-1. We end the week 6-3 with our picks. Listen, that's not a bad week at all. obviously, I want to go perfect with these picks. I want to go 9-0 with these picks. Maybe week 7 is the week to do that. But overall, 6-3 with our picks, and we'll look to run it back in week 7. New week full of new plays and new props to check out. So, without further delay, we're going to transition over into the next slide and start looking at some key injury news going on for week 7. All right, injury news is aplenty in week 7. Let's start with Trevor Lawrence dealing with some knee issues. We're getting some mixed signals regarding the status of Trevor Lawrence's knee. Further tests are coming, and there's some bruising beyond. There's some bruising, but beyond that, there's not a whole lot to know. The outlook doesn't sound great considering he's going for test, but there wasn't anything on the knee in question after the game. With another game coming on Thursday, Lawrence might not have enough time to take the field. So that's just kind of the the overall rundown of his knee. And then you got Michael DeRocco, Jaguars quarterback. Trevor Lawrence says he feels okay. Will get left knee checked out tonight, and this was on Sunday. So as a Sunday night, he was getting that knee looked at. Then went on to say he didn't want to speculate about Thursday night game at New Orleans. So, by the way, all the injury news that we're talking about, I'm grabbing all this information off fantasyalarm.com. Great website, very up to speed with all of their injury news. And so really I'm just grabbing news and making sure I give them the credit in terms of helping us stay in tune and up to date with all that goes on in the NFL. So Trevor Lawrence, quick turnaround for Thursday Night Football against the Saints. It's a possibility he doesn't play. That Jaguars offense will look a hell of a lot different without Lawrence at the helm. Justin Fields, another quarterback injury. And this one's a big one. So good news is x-rays on Justin Fields' throwing hand were negative, but we do have to wait for the MRI. So bad news is that with a dislocated right thumb, the question appears to be how long will Fields be sidelined. We now have to see if Tyson Bagent will be back under center, but without Fields, this is an offense situation to avoid. So Tyler Bagent looked like shit. Now, let's factor in what's really happening here, okay? Guy gets thrown into the mix, rookie quarterback, middle of the game, and I'm sure he was prepared to go in, as a backup quarterback, but once you're in the game and the whole offensive scheme changes, the play calling changes. He's not Justin Fields, so you have to like kind of water down the offense a little bit. He didn't look good. So yeah, I mean, if Justin Fields can't suit up for this game, that offense is in trouble, and it sucks because they were just starting to click. We saw 2 games in a row of Fields running that offense flawlessly and big plays, for Moore and Kmet. They need that running back situation to improve. Roshan Johnson, Khalil Herbert. If Fields can't go, man, I expect a heavy run game going on for the Bears, but that's a big one to keep your eye on in week 7. All right, last 3 pieces of injury news. David Montgomery undergoing further medical testing for injured ribs. Anytime I hear somebody with some injured ribs, I get like shorter breath. It's just like that shit's gotta hurt, man. But initial x-rays were negative. Lions still don't know the severity of the injury. So injured ribs, no joke, man. Can you imagine like just trying to take a deep breath with an injured rib, let alone play football and take hits, taking a handoff? Like, no way, man. That's some tough shit right there to deal with. Sean McVay on Kyron Williams. So tweaked his ankle, but says he's good to go. Just got his ankle tweaked. Nothing too big there. But that's what coaches say. Coaches speak that way. They're never going to tell you the true identity of an injury. So keep your eye out for Kyron Williams news coming out of LA. Big news. Kyle Shanahan. No update. Said he didn't have an update on the severity of the injuries to Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. He did say McCaffrey's dealing with an oblique and rib injury. So McCaffrey dealing with a rib injury and an oblique injury. So all of that's messed up, man. So it sounds like Deebo's probably more in line to play on Monday Night Football versus the Vikings than McCaffrey. This is about the time McCaffrey gets hurt. Every year he gets hurt, middle of the season, sits out a few games. It's just kind of what, is that's kind of what his thing has been since he's been in the NFL. Gets hurt. He's not a big guy. He's not a big running back. He's swole as hell, but he's still taking big hits. He's carrying the ball 20 plus times or touching the ball 20 plus times on basically on every play. He's getting hit. That shit takes a toll on you, and so it's not surprising to see him injured. And he might be looking at a couple of games, a couple of missed games, but I don't think that the 49ers need McCaffrey to beat the Vikings. I think they don't want him to be out for very long, but they could possibly be looking at this week as a good week to rest McCaffrey. So again, keep your eye out for new updates coming out of San Francisco about McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. All right, injury news done. Let's talk about the schedule. Like I said, a lot of big names on that injury news. Also, a name that wasn't on that, but Anthony Richardson. Reports say he could be out for the rest of the season with that AC joint issue. That sucks, man. The Colts just can't catch a break with their quarterbacks, can they? So that means it's the Gardner Minshew show. 3 picks a game. Let's talk about this week 7 schedule. I got 3 games highlighted at the top. We'll spend a few minutes on each one of those games and talk about. I'll share my thoughts with those, and then we have 3 other games I got highlighted that I'll also share my thoughts on. So let's start with the Bills and Patriots. This is a 8.5 point spread. Bills favorite on the road, so got some home dog action going on for the Patriots. Patriots look really bad. All right. I'll eat my crow. I said that last week they were in a bounce back spot against the Raiders that I expected them to win, and they didn't win. Mac Jones continued to play at a low level. I don't know what the Patriots do at quarterback because they don't have the answer on that roster right now. It's not Bailey Zappi. He's so much the answer that he was inactive on Sunday. Not even an injury, just not going to play this game. So he's not the damn answer. Is it Malik Cunningham? Do they turn the reins over to Malik Cunningham at some point this season? If this season gets out of hand, do we see the Patriots just completely blow this shit up and I don't know what they do? Do they make some moves in the draft and trade up for like one of these top quarterbacks coming out? Mac Jones isn't the answer. He almost did enough by himself to lose that game, but collective effort overall by the Patriots. And now they host the Bills, who are coming off a dismal game against the Giants, who should have mollywopped the Giants and let them stick around, and decided to take the first half of football off. Luckily, they did enough in the second half to squeak out a win, but questionable play call by Brian Dable, bad clock management by the Giants. They helped the Bills out a little bit with that win, but Bills should be back on track. I can't see them overlooking the Patriots, a division opponent at that. So I think the Bills are back on track. I think they cover this for sure. Vikings hosting the 49ers. We just spoke a little bit about the injury news coming out of San Francisco. I don't think the Niners need to be 100% healthy to beat the Vikings, but if one of those guys can play, if Deebo can play, improves the odds of them winning on the road. But if both of them can't play, if Deebo and McCaffrey are out, damn, that offense looks different. Now you're looking at heavy target share for Kittle and Ayuk. Do we see different nuances in the run game? Jordan Mason, Kyle Juszczyk. What do we see out of the backfield? Vikings dysfunctional. Really going to miss Justin Jefferson for the next few weeks. Doesn't have that big play ability. Jordan Addison is a nice player. He's not on that Jefferson level yet, but you can't replace Justin Jefferson with the receivers you have on that offense. So Vikings, I think they'll continue to struggle on offense. Seahawks hosting the Cardinals. Can we talk about Geno Smith? Can we talk about DK Metcalf? Because Geno Smith looked bad Sunday. Yes, I know he threw for 300 yards, but he also turned the ball over, untimely sacks, wasn't able to get rid of the ball. His awareness level looked super low in that game. And it's like he wasn't looking for DK Metcalf. I mean, maybe it's DK Metcalf. Maybe DK Metcalf is a shitty teammate. Maybe I think he's like a OnlyFans porn star or something. Maybe they don't like that about him. But Russell Wilson had issues with DK, and in that game against the Bengals, I saw Geno Smith really target Tyler Lockett and just really not look towards DK Metcalf as much as he should have. DK Metcalf he's the best playmaker on this team. He's an explosive, big ass wide receiver. He can stretch the field. He can out jump, outrun your best cornerback. And for some reason, he's not heavily involved in his offense so far in this season. So if the Seahawks want to beat this Cardinals team, they need to be clicking on all cylinders, because they're not good enough right now to be taking plays off and, you know, making these types of mistakes. Cardinals are scrappy enough to make this a game. Josh Dobbs is better than you think he is, than you thought he was. With a band of misfits, you got Zach Ertz, the corpse of Zach Ertz. You got Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, resurrecting his career in Arizona. Michael Wilson, Rondé Moore. That defense is not gonna take a day off, take a play off. That defense is there to fight. You got a lot of good pieces in Arizona. Unfortunately, it's not enough to compete with the better teams in the NFL, but we saw them beat the Cowboys. We saw the Cowboys take this team lightly, and they lost that game. So could this be another game where the Cardinals upset, a team? This is on the road. Cardinals played the Cowboys at home, so there's a difference there. But yeah, if the Seahawks play like they played against the Bengals, we could be talking about some shit going on in Seattle. But those three games stand out to me in terms of point spread. There are some stories within the game to be on the lookout for as well. All right, let's talk about these three games I have highlighted in yellow. Raiders at the Bears, only a 3-point spread here. Bears home dogs, Raiders favored on the road by 3. When I saw Justin Fields go down and this Tyler Bagent kid step in, and I saw some of the hits he was taking, when I saw when I saw how watered down that offensive scheme was, and just how shaky he looked, I immediately thought about Max Crosby. I immediately thought about the Raiders defensive line getting after this guy. And that's why Max Crosby is on the thumbnail of this video. I think the Raiders spanked the Bears. I think the defense makes a statement in this game. And I just don't see how the Bears can move the ball down the field with shaky quarterback play. And we still have a banged up backfield in Chicago. No Khalil Herbert. Will Roschon Johnson play? You saw, Deontay Foreman get outplayed by, I don't even know the guy's name. Darrington Evans Darrington. I don't know. In the first half, Deontay Foreman was sparsely used, and then salvages his day with 65 rushing yards. What the hell are the Bears doing with their guys? So there are a lot of question marks on the Chicago side of things, and now you have Justin Fields missing time, man. So Raiders are starting to ascend a little bit, beat the Packers, beat the Patriots. They're looking to make it 3-0, and I think they can do it against the Bears. But man, I look for Max Crosby and that defense to get after Tyler Bagent for sure. All right, Commanders at the Giants. Now, I don't remember if I talked about the Commanders in last week's video. I should remember. It was my video. But I talked about a lot of shit last week. Commanders give up a lot of plays. They give up a lot of production, okay? We saw Desmond Ridder pass his ass off, also threw a bunch of interceptions. But man, he and Drake London, along with Jonnu Smith and Kyle Pitts, had a nice day passing, receiving, catching versus the Commanders. That secondary is exploitable. Now, you're talking about the New York Giants quarterback position right now is in flux. Even with the healthy Daniel Jones, that offense didn't look good. We saw Tyrod Taylor take some shots down the field against the Bills. I believe he found Slayton for a couple of big plays down the field, 20 plus yards, type of plays. He took some shots. He didn't hit on all of them, but he was taking his shots downfield. That's not the secondary that you expect to give up big plays. Washington is. If Tyrod is in again, man, that's a DFS. That's a cheap ass stack. Tyrod, Slayton, Waller. If Jones is in, I hope he can get the ball down the field and hit some of these big plays, because we just saw Desmond Ridder pick this defense apart. Really, this is like whoever Washington's playing, look at that opposing quarterback. Look at that receiver quarterback combo. Look at their props on Prizepicks, because that can be a nice correlation stack for you. But this week, the Giants don't have the weapons that Atlanta has in terms of, like Drake London is a pretty decent receiver. You got Kyle Pitts, immense talent, hasn't put it all together. Bijan, so you don't really have that level of talent on the Giants. Good to see Saquon back, rushing for almost 100 yards. Look to get his footing back and timing back as the game wore on, which is great. Maybe he gets heavily involved in the passing game against the Commanders. Maybe he can turn a screen or a pass in a flat into a long gain, but Commanders secondary, Commanders defense in general is one to exploit in Week 7. Chargers at Chiefs. I have this one highlighted for a couple of reasons, because we saw Dak Prescott pick apart this Chargers defense. Now, he didn't need to pass for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. It wasn't that type of game. The defense did enough to hold Herbert and this Chargers offense down a little bit. But we saw Dak Prescott be comfortable in that pocket. We saw that offensive line hold up, give him time to throw the ball, and he made some big plays down the field. Found some large gains. CeeDee Lamb, Gallup, Brandon Cook with the touchdown. Now the Chargers get to take on the Chiefs. I can't think of a worse quarterback to be facing at this point in terms of exploiting weaknesses on defense than Patrick Mahomes. We still have not seen that blow up game for Patrick Mahomes. We haven't seen that 300 plus triple touchdown game for Patrick Mahomes. This could be the game we see it. This could be another game where we target an offense versus a shaky secondary. Rashee Rice, maybe even a bigger role for Rashee Rice this week. I know the Chiefs are dealing with some injuries in that receiving core, so maybe we see more out of Rashee Rice. Maybe we see a larger role for Kadarius Toney. Obviously, Travis Kelce is your focal point on that offense. So I have this game highlighted because I think this is a game that the Chiefs win by more than 5.5 points. I think this could be like the coming out party in 2023 for the Chiefs. So those 3 games are standing out to me for different reasons. And then at the very top, we have our 3 games with the largest point spreads going into Week 7. All right, like I mentioned, wanted to take you on over to the Prizepicks dashboard. Let's take a look at what's available to us. Now, it's Tuesday afternoon. It's 12:06 p.m. We have some Thursday night props up already, but majority of these props are for Sunday and Monday. So really early to be, looking at these props and like making your final decisions. Obviously, if you see something that's just like you can't not play it, definitely play it. But let's be patient with these props. Like, looking at these props right now, like, you're scrolling through and maybe you're saying like, oh, that's a good one, or oh, that's another good one, but like, why is it a good one? How do you know it's a good one? Like, lines aren't even out right now. A lot of dust is still settling from Week 6. What I'm saying is give these props some time. If they move, they move. You got hundreds and hundreds of props to choose from. Don't get fixated on one guy, one prop. But Here are some quarterback props we got going into week 7. Let's see if anything just stands out and figure out why it stands out without doing any research, without digging into any stats, just based off what we know already for this season. Let's see if anything's just standing out, anything that we can exploit. So we got Derek Carr, Goff, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, this Vikings and Baltimore game, Lions and Baltimore Ravens game, does have sneaky shootout potential. We could see more fireworks from the Ravens against a Detroit Lions team that seems to be for real this year. Goff is quietly doing his thing. 353 yards against the Bucks. Didn't need to do a whole lot versus Carolina. Against Seattle, he's not a bad quarterback. I know people make fun of him and they call him goofball and shit like that, but he's still a good quarterback, and he's in a better situation in Detroit, this time of the year than he was last time, or last year at this time is what I'm trying to say. More experience in his offense. Weapons are really good. Amon-Ra's healthy. Jameson Williams is back. Laporta is emerging as a top tight end as a rookie. So be alert for the Lions this week. 243 for Jared Goff. This Baltimore defense is good, but I think we live off of the past sometimes, and we hear something, we think of something, we're like, oh yeah, like they're good or that guy's great, but it's like time goes on and sometimes things aren't what they seem. So like that Baltimore defense, you can score on that Baltimore defense. I think 243 is a number to look at for Jared Goff going in, not going in, but for week 7. Another prop that is in play, Derek Carr. Now, we saw him pass for 350 yards against the Texans. We can look at looking at the 5-game log on Prizepicks should not be the best research tool you have, the best process you have, the only process you have. But for now, we're going to look at the 5-game log because there's very little available to us on props.cash, and other lines aren't available yet. So again, surface level here. We're just looking at week 7, very lightly right now. But Derek Carr, 235 passing yards, 235.5 versus the Jaguars. That's another one that I think could be considered a smidge too low. Scrolling down, Geno Smith versus the Cardinals one here. These down here, listen, I know the Eagles are a good team. I know Zach Wilson didn't pick them apart, but if you're not targeting Tua versus the Eagles, you definitely should be considering looking at Hill and Waddle versus the Eagles, because the Eagles secondary will allow high yardage totals to receivers. They will. I almost called him Owen Wilson. We saw Garrett Wilson, Owen Wilson's younger brother. We saw Garrett Wilson put together a nice game versus the Eagles, and that's with Zach Wilson at quarterback. Now you're talking about Tua with arguably the best receiver in the NFL right now. You can say Justin Jefferson is, but he's hurt. So Tyreek Hill, the best, healthiest wide receiver in the NFL. You have Jalen Waddle. You have two very strong receivers taking on an exploitable Eagles secondary. So if you're not looking at Tua this week, you should be looking at Hill or Waddle. So those are some early quarterback plays that stand out to me. Let's take a look at some rushing yards over on Prizepicks and what's standing out to me. Lamar Jackson is always in play. 45.5 rushing yards. He's gone over this 3 out of his last 5 games. He has that 100-yard upside. Detroit's defense is legit, but sometimes you just go with the talent. Sometimes you just go with the superstar. And, like when the quarterback just throws it up, they trust their receiver. Sometimes you just go with the upside, the talent that a player possesses. And Lamar Jackson is in that spot this week versus the Lions. We talked about the Raiders at the Bears and Max Crosby and that defense getting after the Bears. I think what can happen in this game is we see some really short field position for the Raiders. We could possibly see a heavy run game for Josh Jacobs if Garoppolo is not able to play this game and Hoyer's in. We could be looking at a healthy dose of Josh Jacobs. He could get closer to 100. We could see him finally crack 100 yards against this Chicago secondary, score a touchdown or two. So he's definitely in play. We'll wait and see, what his props look like going into the week. But that's one that's definitely on my radar. Saquon looked really good against the Bills, man. Like I said, he started getting it going as the game wore on. Literally got his footing underneath him. He was slipping around and shit earlier in the game and seemed to get his legs underneath him and put together a really strong game. Almost cracked 100 yards. He could possibly do this against the Washington Commanders this week. If not, then I look for him to definitely be involved in his offense by way of passing game. He's not his props aren't available on the board outside of the rushing prop. So we'll go ahead and just click that for now because I think his rushing yards are in play. Early look, okay? Early look. That's a really high total for Kenneth Walker. 72.5 rushing yards seems a little high. He hasn't cracked 100 yards yet this year. He's gone over 72.5 twice, Giants and Carolina. He's kind of a do-it-all back, He'll run for 60, catch 50 yards out of the backfield on four receptions kind of guy, score a touchdown, and you look at the total at the end of the game, and he has 22 fantasy points, but doesn't really excel, in one area. It kind of does a little bit of everything, so that might be a little too high. Could possibly look at the under on this one against Arizona. Jalen Hurts rushing yards. This is another rushing prop. We talk about Lamar Jackson's rushing yard prop against the Dolphins. Dolphins run defense not all that great. We saw Chuba Hubbard put up 80 plus yards. I know it's a running back, but rushing yards are rushing yards, and Jalen Hurts is about as good as a rusher, as you can find in the NFL. Even at the quarterback position. So that's another one to consider. Receiving yards, let's take a look at this. I love attacking running back receiving yards. I think we look at the rushing yards and fantasy points. But when you find a running back that's involved in the offense, sometimes these rushing yard props are really low. Like Kamara's rushing yards last week were like a little over 20. Now they've bumped up. Like he crushed it. Last week against the Texans. This guy is going to catch like 5-6 passes a game out the backfield. He can get this in one play. He's in that Eckler category, with those running backs who are wide receivers, basically. So you got Kamara in there. I'm going to start clearing some of these guys out because I do want to click them as I go. So we'll get rid of some of these quarterbacks. So we got Kamara's receiving yards. That's one that I could look at to put in a slip. See if we can find any other running backs that are in a good spot. And then I'll scroll back up and we'll look at some receiver props. So it looks like Kamara's the best running or the only running back available to us in terms of receiving yards. All right, so let's see. We talked about Washington and their secondary. We have any giant receivers up here right now? No, probably not going to see any giant props because quarterback position needs to be finalized for this week. So I'm sure once that's updated, we'll see some Giants receiving props. But all right, let's see what else we got. We have some New Orleans Saints. If you like Derek Carr's prop, his go-to guy is Chris Olave. He's the alpha in this group right now. Michael Thomas is your second, and then Rashid Shaheed is really hit or miss. Like he's gonna get this on one pass. He's gonna catch like a 50-yarder, and that's it. But he can get it done. But it's a little too volatile. Let's see. Zay Flowers, man, he had a really good fantasy game against the Titans, but failed to go over receiving yards. So 50 yards, a touchdown. I think he caught 6 passes. So he finished with almost 18 fantasy points. 55 yards seems to be a very difficult number for Flowers to go over. Or at least it was against the Titans. Did it against Pitt, did it against Cleveland, did it against Cincy. There are better props out there. Staying away from DJ Moore right now, you know, with this quarterback situation in Chicago. Let's see. Stephon Diggs is always in play. I'll tell you this. People remember all the stuff people would say about Bill Belichick being able to take away the opposing team's best weapon and then making that team beat them, you know, in a different way. That hasn't been the case this season. So I think we can attack the Patriots with the best players from the other team and not be afraid that Belichick's gonna like pull some magic and wipe away that number one receiver, you know, or number one running back. Stephon Diggs is in play this week. Patriots, man, they're clinging on for dear life. Like, if they lose this game, we might see some big changes in New England. But Stephon Diggs is in play for sure. 86.5 receiving yards. DK Metcalf, man, my bias wants to say take the over. Look, he goes over against Cincy, but man, he could have had a touchdown, should have had a touchdown, should have had closer to 100 yards. He's in play versus the Arizona Cardinals. Anybody else? Okay, this receiving situation in Denver, Cortland Sutton is the number one receiver in Denver. I know at one point it was Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and then whoever else. But Cortland Sutton has taken over that spot. At least to me, he has. He is the best receiver. He's a big body receiver. He can go up and make tough catches, as we saw against the Chiefs. 46.5. There is no reason his total should be under Jerry Jeudy's total. This to me is definitely in play. We'll get rid of Jacobs and Barkley. This to me is definitely in play. And let's see. Anybody else down here? We talked about Hill. All right. Let's move on to let's see if there are any touchdown props that are standing out to us. Travis Etienne and Tyreek Hill. I mean, these are your only two available right now. There's no need to like choose one of these right now. But if out of these two, I would Tyreek Hill all day. Out of these two, obviously, as this board fills out, we'll have more options. But as of now, I would take the over on his touchdown prop. Let's see, pass rush yards. Like I said, not a whole lot to look at right now. But I mean, we were able to find a shit ton of plays just looking at the yards, looking at, you know, what's available to us, comparing what we saw, you know, last week to the Prizepicks board. And this is all done without research. This is all done without in-depth, you know, research here. So as the week goes on, we'll obviously have more to work with. So as of now, these are just a few plays that are standing out to me. Am I going to throw these in a slip right now? No. That's dumb. But I will consider these for my slips as I begin my research process. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to bring an end to this extremely long, hopefully informative, beneficial video. Thank you so much for stopping by the channel, checking this video out. Truly appreciate the time you've taken to do so. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you thought about this video. Let me know if you found it to be helpful, if you found it to be informative. I would truly appreciate it. If you haven't checked out the Free Player Prop Discord, 100% free. Link to that is in the description below. As always, best of luck to you all. Whatever you're playing, be on the lookout for my upcoming NFL player prop videos, dropping 3 of those this week. We'll see how the MLB playoffs shape up and possibly be dropping a video for those games as well. Best of luck to you all, whatever you're playing this week. And until my next player prop video, Chavez is out.